What is up, everybody? It's been a couple minutes. Figured I'd finally make another video. It's been a while, a little rusty. Going over my assortment of folders. You can see them all piled up over here. I don't know. Getting back into the groove. I have some new Bally stuff I've been working on. Figured I'd post that as well, along with some older stuff that's less known about. Figured might as well publish some content because no one knows about these things, right? And if I don't, it's gonna be lost to time. So figure we'll start this video out with my first quality folder I ever bought, putting quality in big parentheses here. This is the CRKT BT Fighter, full size. I still love this knife. It has a couple issues. Excuse the awful Cerakote. It's just scratching off. I mean, I can take my nail and do that. Bad coating. But, and the thing that killed it for me was this pocket clip. Comes loose all the time. The ball pocket clip, a lot of people don't like. I don't have too many issues with it. I don't know. I mean, it served me well. It clearly never fell out of my pocket and I didn't lose it. So that's a good sign. I do really like that there are, I was going to demonstrate that, there's a couple different ways to open it. I mean, button flick, then you have your flipper tab, thumb stud, and if you really can get it, I guess you could Spidey flick it. I can't. This has just been a pretty solid knife. I'm kind of sad CRKT discontinued these. Back in the day when I bought mine, and I think I paid 35 bucks for it, and I was joking all the time. Anything I'd want to buy, I would just compare it to BT Fighters. I want to buy Replicant. Well, that's, 10 BT Fighters that I could trash. Sadly, I never got a chance to pick up a second one to keep nice and in the box. This is one that if you find for cheap at some store or pops up, I'd recommend buying it. They do have, it's not the most durable knife in the world. They do have some lock rock. You can hear it. And then I believe this one has some blade play too. Not a lot. Another thing that kills me, as you can see in the back here, it has steel liners with a polymer plastic frame around it. And these guys warped. It's not too bad right now. You can see it up here in the top of the pivot. That is kind of an ick for me. I'm not really happy that it does that. But this stayed in my pocket for a good, 2-3 years. Got more than its use. More than its, I used it more than what I paid for it, easily. The 8CR 13 MOV, I believe, is what these are made out of. I didn't have too many issues with it. I mean, it did go dull, but it'd be not... I cut cardboard, and I was cutting apart anyone who's shot shotgun. Clay pigeon boxes. So I mean, it was eating the clay pigeons all day. I mean, I was using it to scrape out the trap machines. I mean, it was a work knife, and it got its fair share of abuse. I will say, out of the factory, it is a little better now. You can't really see it underneath the awful Cerakote, but the grind line that comes down here doesn't match up with this transition. This side's a little worse, and that came from the factory like that, just off. I've over time, as I've worn it down, kept sharpening it over and over again, it has come back mildly. Still, it was 35 bucks back in the day. I mean, who cares? It cut stuff, and it was fidgety. I mean, that was enough for me. Moving on from this guy, the next knife I bought and carried for a long time was this. I got this about 3 years ago, if I remember right, maybe 4, from Blade Show. This is a Hibel Blackhawk. At Blade Show, he was selling them for 50 bucks. For 50 bucks, this knife is well worth it. I think online they're going for like 100 and some. Hibel's basically falling off the face of the earth. And they're not worth all that. They're not that, good. I will say, I mean, I think the flipper tab's great. This is D2 with a DLC coating. Never had any rusting issues. I mean, I don't think I ever bothered sharpening this knife over a while. And it's still got a pretty good edge on it. I was using this to hack through like lumber straps and pull up staples and lumber. I mean, I was doing a lot of more hands-on stuff back when I was using this guy. And it's still a very fine knife. I liked how it felt in gloves. It's very glovable, I guess. It fits my hand really well. It's pretty blocky overall. And it is just a basic liner lock. Just as a heads up, a lot of people did complain. The few who actually felt this knife for the 1 year that he was at Blade Show, the last year he was at Blade Show, there was no detent ramp. So you really have to move it over and you can see it. But I never had too much of an issue. I think if he made this window a hair bigger, so that one, you could actually use the Spidey hole that's in there or roll it out with your thumb or do anything else, and you can only open this guy with the flipper tab. You might be able to pinch it open, but that's not how it was designed at all. So I think, you know, widen this out a little bit on both sides, and this knife would have been pretty golden and added a detent ramp. It does have a titanium pocket clip. Never had issues with this guy. I think I did hit it with like a blowtorch just to make it a little darker because it was I don't know, pretty bright silver. And you see where I was starting to wear off the DLC. And this thing put in some good work for about a year and a half. After this guy, I ended up picking up my current EDC knife, the Microtech MSI. This is the second gen, I believe. The first gen had a different ram lock size. Fundamentally the same. These guys, I wouldn't say they're like super snappy. I wouldn't say the detent's amazing on them or anything special. It's just a beefy work knife. And they're on the larger side too. This guy, one of the few rare exceptions I've ever, you know, bought scales for a folder. These are Shepherd CC. I believe these scales were 160, 180 bucks. So about the same amount I spent on the knife. Frag pattern. You can see all the dead skin and crud. And I've been carrying this a lot. It's got its fair share of dust bunnies living in it. I do need to clean it out. The M390 steel, no issue with rusting or anything like that. This is actually my second one. The first one I bought, it became a parts knife. And I picked up another one because I got a good deal on it. And it became a Frankenstein build. The detent on this, there's like nothing enclosed. And there's enough that it will hold the knife shut. You can see it spraying. But it's not going to be your snappy Benchmade frame lock. I mean, anything else. The detent's very soft. Most of the time, I do find myself Spidey flicking it. It's my preferred way to open it. If not, typically just roll it open with my thumb. Feels great to roll it open with my thumb. Trying to think anything else special about this guy. Not that I can really think of. I do enjoy the T15 pivots, or maybe they're T20. They're big. These screws are very stressful. There's not a lot of meat actually behind the screw head. They are like a small thread. I don't believe they're 2x56 either. So some other thread, probably common for folders, but I couldn't tell you. I'm a Bally guy. Yeah, this thing served me pretty well. I've had this guy for 2 years, maybe longer than that. I've for the most part had no complaints. Trying to think what next. And with these, I would say the newer the version is that you get, the better the detent is. Mine's not snappy, but my buddy has a newer version. His is very snappy. His feels how I'd love mine to feel, but I'm not buying another one just to get that. And this is a work knife through and through. Moving on from the Microtechs, we're just going to make a little pile here so I don't double dip. Moving on from the MSI, I believe the next purchase on my list was this guy. Was at a knife show or something like that in Wisconsin, and I had one of these forever ago. It was like black, and then someone had put a scuff in it. And I think I paid way more than I should have. I think it was 180 bucks I spent on it. I think I bought this guy for like 110 at a show, new. It was purple. I blasted it. I believe I blasted the blade 2 on this guy and stonewashed it. Put a new edge on it. And this has been a pretty nice knife. I don't carry it all that often, solely because it's an auto. I love the ergos. I mean, it's small for my knives. It's still very long. It's a big knife, but I'd say, you know, the handle width is a little smaller. Fits my hand great. No complaints about anything Kershaw did on this model. The original one I actually had Kusky make barrels for the spacer, and that was a mistake. I shouldn't have spent 60 bucks or whatever it was for 2 barrels. It moved the weight from being kind of neutral to, you know, slightly, we're going to say bally terms, ass heavy, handle heavy, to being blade heavy. And I mean, when it launched out, it would launch out. A little bit cooler, sure. Little too much for, you know, every day. I don't really want to focus on having to hold on to my knife every time I open it. Not saying it's crazy strong automatic, it's gonna, you know, flip out and stab you, but it had some mass going to it. I believe this is another 8CR 13 MOV or maybe CPM 154. Couldn't tell you anymore. It's the whatever the standard was. Used to be a label there, now it's not. I love debranding my knives. Probably my favorite auto. I do like the 14, which is a cleaver. I don't own one of those. It's been on my list of like, when I get around to it, I'll buy one. Till then, we're just gonna have this guy. Moving on, some point in time, I believe it was in between the MSI and the launch, I bought this from Walmart because everyone online was freaking out about it. Walmart cloned the Bugout. Not a clone of a Bugout. Will never replace a Bugout. I don't even think I carried this, but just from fidgeting with it, I got nice blade rock. I think you can push the blade and have it hit the inside of the handles. Like, it is, it's what you get for $8 or $12 or whatever they were going for. Will say, out of the Axis Lock knives, I love fidgeting with this, and it flies open. I don't do, a lot of folder guys do, you know, the thumb meat against it. I can't do that on normal knives. I am a, like, put my nail under it kind of person. And this knife is the only one, I know, not a huge folder guy, that I can just put the meat of my thumb on and flick it open. Doesn't flick open as hard, but it's fine. I would consider this more of a fidget toy than a knife. I mean, if you got 10 bucks and you want to sit there and just fidget with something all day, it's not bad. But how long does the edge last? I think there's a couple of videos out there. Not very long. It's pretty, I say pretty, it's really unimpressive. This is a sharpened piece of mild steel with some sort of black coating. I think they say it's DLC or something else. It's nothing crazy. So, I don't know. I like handing this to people like, hey, you know, start off, if you want to buy a nice knife, how do you feel about this guy? Because then you can push him into the Bugout. I would not recommend that anyone buys this and actually carries it. See what else we got here. Guess get this out of the way and then kill off the other Microtechs and the other folders I got. This is a Maxace Archer, I think. I don't know if it has it branded anywhere on there. Yeah, Archer. I bought this guy for $100, secondhand, like new in box. The old Maxace folders, probably wouldn't buy one. I've heard good things about the new ones. This guy has been somewhat of a lemon. For $100, not a bad OTF. For comparing it to literally anyone else's OTF, you know, you look at the Kershaw Livewire, you look at any of the new Microtechs, you look at, not Hogue, maybe, no, I think Hogue makes an OTF. Benchmade's OTFs I don't care for. Who am I blanking on? I got a buddy who really likes them. Either way, this thing is getting kind of mid. The locking mechanism internally is somewhat interesting, rather than Microtech had a door here and here, or the other way around, you know, one door. This actually has 2 doors and 2 doors for locking. I think that's somewhat interesting. Probably a little overkill. I don't know why exactly you need 4. Microtech's been doing 2 for forever. It is an extra level of pain in the butt to assemble it because they're all directional. And if you put it back together wrong, it doesn't work. Out of the box, when I bought this guy, it had been... I'm not entirely sure when Maxace made these, but I could tell it had just been sitting in a box. And Maxace uses some super thick grease, and clearly that had not aged well. It was more rock than grease. So after cleaning this out, I tried like using a thinner Benchmade Blue Lube cleaner on it. That really didn't work. I tried using standard Benchmade Blue Lube. I tried like greasing it with Frog Lube. I tried just about anything to make this work. And the end way of fixing it was basically nuking this in an ultrasonic cleaner, spraying it out with brake clean. And now it's mostly reliable. I say is it fails. Most of the time it works. It's temperamental. I swear if the humidity's too high, she doesn't work. Might be time for some more brake clean. Maybe WD-40 or something, I don't know. It's not my first OTF, and probably for the most part will be my last OTF. Never found a real need to carry one of these over, one of these. It's like a fun gimmick to sit there and fidget with, but if you buy a nicer OTF, something that, you actually get your money's worth out of, you don't have this problem. But as a fidget toy, I wouldn't recommend these because I don't want to be sitting there playing with trying to get it closed. I'd rather be sitting there opening and closing it. Whatever. I will say they do have it's almost like a skateboard finish where it's like not a grip tape, but they use some sort of adhesive and these little black rubber bits, or maybe they're plastic or something else, some sort of grit. That, as a heads up for the, 2 people out there who actually own one of these and use it, if you ultrasonic clean it with heat, it will remove some of those little textures. So that's a whatever kind of thing. It sits in a box, or not, sits in my junk drawer all day. It's whatever. All right, moving on. This was one of my Grail knives for the longest time. I think I bought this guy maybe after the BT Fighter in my timeline. My timeline's all messed up. Clearly didn't do these quite in the order I wanted to. The ZT55. This is a collab with GTC. I just love the blade. These went on sale at Blade HQ for $130, and that is a steal for this knife. I think I paid $115 for mine. Like 3 years later, some random guy posted it. It was his last post for years. I DM'd him. He actually responded. He's like, "You knew my references?" I'm like, "Nope, fuck it, we ball." Sent him cash, and this arrived. I have heard they did make knockoffs. I'm not 100% sure. This is a design I wish, that was currently in production to some extent. GTC's Customs, I haven't had a chance to hold them. Every year I go to Blade Show, I go over to his booth, and everything's sold. And there's nothing. I've held one of his like flipper tab only customs, like a little small guy. One of JK or Hanson's friends owns one. Not my cup of tea. If I want a GTC, I want the SLT. All the SLT is a flipper tab that is on a spring. It's nothing crazy. It's not the SLT is such an improvement over a flipper tab. I guess it is if you don't want to see the flipper tab on either side. Flipper tabs do have the benefit of, in theory, if you were to stab something, this is going to slide up easier than, let's say, this guy. It locks your hand in. You're not moving past it. In theory. I don't know. How often are you stabbing stuff? I don't know. Probably not that often, but something to consider. I have blasted, I believe, the handle on this. It's got a lot of wear. Clip was blasted. At one point, you can see the yellow. Changed the backspacer from blue to yellow with Cerakote. This side, it's completely worn off. I carried this for a while. It just wasn't... I worried so much for a knife that I love. This pocket clip just sucks. That's a big topic I think a lot of people sleep on. Having a good pocket clip is like world-changing for a knife. This guy, I would say the pilot clip from Microtech is pretty good. It's nothing crazy, but with the frag texture, and this locks into my pocket, I physically have to lift this up to get it out of my pants. So I never have to worry about losing my $600-ish knife for however much money I have into this, too much, because it locks into my pocket. I can do cartwheels all day, and this guy ain't going anywhere. This guy I would catch all the time, slowly inching its way up out of my pocket, and that is the reason I no longer carry it anymore, except for rare occasions. Moving on from this guy, even though I do love it, I did end up buying GTC's newer production knife. I think it's 2 years old at this point, maybe 3, the Wee Knife Solid. GTC, when I was talking to him, said that this is a better example of what his knife should be. Some pros and cons to that. I don't really care for this blade shape. I like this guy, which I believe is more designed off the Airborne, and this is designed more off of his other model. I think it's the same blade shape as the Enigma. The flipper tab on this guy is just kind of boring. Like, it has a little bit of knurling there. It doesn't open up all that much, and it moves maybe what? I'm trying to think. That's probably 20 degrees. It's whatever. This guy, I knew, moves like 90 degrees, and you can really get some leverage on it. The other thing, while I still have this up, what you have to be careful with these are that the detent ball and the detent ball hole in the blade kind of like to get a little too connected. So on closed, over time, if you have this in your pocket and this gets pressed on, your lock bar, your frame lock, it makes it normally way harder to open. I think my little detent ball hole is currently full of dirt, so it doesn't really have that problem anymore, but it is something to consider if you like pick one up and it's like, wow, this really takes a lot of oomph some of the time. That's your problem on this guy. This guy, haven't had any real issues with it. I did buy it. It was a blackened handle. I immediately blasted it. Or no, it was a satin handle, or whatever they call their satin. It was way too slippery. So ended up taking that apart. I'm probably the only guy out there to take this apart, blast everything, blast this little frame lock door, pilot clip, everything else. There's a little tiny washer in here that has tabs that locate, and it's a mess unless you take it apart and then like really sit down and think about how it goes together. So most of these knives I can take apart in a couple minutes. This guy, I would say, takes me 2 or 3 times that amount of time. Probably a little faster now that I know what I'm getting into, but still not a knife I'm just like, I'm bored, I'm going to take this apart. Taking it apart is suffering and misery. Taking this apart is suffering and misery. Do not take apart a BT Fighter. It's not fun. The button lock with the internal steel liners with the shell over the top, not fun. For ease of maintenance, I do like the Microtechs a lot. They are pretty simple. The Launch 7 isn't bad. It's just loading it under spring tension, which is whatever. This guy I wouldn't recommend taking apart either. Kind of miserable. You have to remember how every little piece faces. A little too complex for my tastes in a folder. Mechanically interesting. A little too complex to be in my pocket all the time. I will say, it is interesting that it is, an SLT on an integral. It's a little heavy. Again, what killed this for me after I bought it is the pocket clip. This pocket clip too, I've made a couple pocket clips in my life, and this has a pocket that it sits down in to stop the pocket clip from rotating like the BT Fighter did. The downside is that's kind of a nightmare to either make a piece that fills it in or make a pocket clip that sits in it. Not all about that. So this guy kind of got just shelved. Lives in a case most of its days. I think I've carried it maybe once in the past year, and it was like to show my coworker. I was like, yeah, I think these are kind of cool. Last knife pickup from whatever blade show. Moving on, these are some of my most recent purchases. This guy came first. This is the Microtech SOCOM Delta. SOCOM Delta. This is the Marfione Select Finish Vapor something or other. It has a stone wash on the blade, and he put his initials instead of the Microtech logo or his signature. This knife I carried for about a week, and then it kept stabbing me, and I wasn't particularly fond of that. I love the ergos. The action on it is just awful. This guy has no detent enclosed. This guy's a little bit more, but it's just not snappy enough for a thumb stud. The MSI, I can bury my finger in. I mean, I'm reaching out to the other side when I flick it out. This guy, I can't do that. I'm not a big fan of the whole like pressure thumb stud. Not very good at it. It does open with the thumb stud for me normally. It's just not, it doesn't have the tactile feeling I'm looking for. I also worry in a day-to-day about tipping it. I don't really want to have to sharpen this. And you can see my work knife. The edge on this guy is nothing crazy. I'm sure it's covered in gunk and nonsense. It's still a mirror polish, but it's like, oh yeah, I have so much material. Who cares if it looks good or not? Just needs to be sharp. This guy I'd worry about, it's thin behind the edge. Go a little too far, and it's going to start looking real wonky real fast. Here's that specialty vaporwave stonewash dual tone finish. These also have a weird feature. I'm not entirely sure why. Microtech loves their glass breakers, and for some reason they made this little guy like spring loaded. And it just goes down maybe, what is that, a couple thousandths, 20 thousandths, maybe 30. And I can't think of any reason to do that. I'd assume if you were breaking a window, you don't want the glass breaker to move out of the way or deflect any. I mean, you want to hit it dead on. And that's the whole reason you have the ball anyway. So that being said, who's really using a pocket knife to break a glass window? I'm sure there's people out there who have done it, and it's like handy when you need it, but not the general population. I'd say a glass breaker is kind of not needed. I haven't had a chance to take this guy apart. Just like all the other Microtech folders for the most part, it is a steel liner with a titanium shell over it. The MSI is also steel liner, G10 shell over it. I do wonder, looking at this, and you can see around the pivot, the glinting right on the edge of it. I believe the pivot screws just sit on the liners. Not 100% sure. I'd have to take it apart, but that is mildly interesting, I guess, that it doesn't sit on the scales. Makes sense to make the pivot a little shorter, probably a little easier. It does kind of bug me, I guess, that the pivots aren't like a perfect fit. There is also the screws that stick out and out of the top. You can see them. Do you feel it? No. Is it an aesthetic thing that kind of bothers me? Yes. It's whatever. And you can see some of these screws, again, you have that little bit of shiny around the edges. So I think they, for the most part, just sit on the liner. I think this knife would be a lot better with TRM's thumb stud. I had a TRM Neutron for a long time, carried that, and that was a like great action, very snappy, little too small for what I wanted. But I would love to get a TRM thumb stud that could fit this, that I could put an O-ring around. I did try putting an O-ring around this because I was like, oh, there's a groove, maybe I'll get away with it. The thumb stud doesn't make contact with the scale, but it gets close enough that there is no room for an O-ring. So that kind of blows. They're kind of expensive for what they are. I think the original SOCOM has way more character. I do like the action. I take the action on this one more than the original, because the original's just a thumb stud and a very hard liner frame lock. I am quite fond of the ram lock. I think it is a very good system. I like it over the axis lock. It's simple. I mean, it's a rod with a pen spring on it. No, what do they call it? Axis springs or whatever Benchmade calls their crazy little spring. This guy's not going to break. Or if it does, find a pen. Just replace it. It's not that hard. And durability-wise, I haven't had any issue. The original MSIs, if you pounded on them, they could close. I haven't had any issue with anything newer Microtech's made. For the most part, they made the bar interact more on the locking surface for the blade. Kind of defeated that issue with them. This guy, came out of the box sharp, still sharp. Don't really use it. And my last knife, this is the most recent pickup from me. Had a boss leave from work. I picked him up a LUDT with the ram lock. He loves it. I loved it. I should have kept it. Should have bought two. But while I was there, the knife shop owner had this guy, which is the Mini Stitch. This, I think, is the best Microtech folder action I've ever felt. It is dead on. I'm so happy with this guy. It's fidgety, fits my hand well for a micro knife, and it is pretty small. This is kind of the replacement for me for the TRM Neutron 2. No complaints for the most part. I mean, I don't use this to cut stuff very often. I use the MSI because I always carry the MSI. This is just a fidget toy. But I mean, that tip is ultra fine. And I just worry about breaking it. Cool looking knife though. And the action, I like that it swings, but it has enough of a detent, and you can hear it for how strong it is. Yeah, just a good fidget toy knife. I'd say, you know, this gets about as much cutting use as this guy does, but quite fond of these. I did also feel the Mini Amphibian. Mini Amphibian felt great. I like the ergos. I hate the Amphibian thumb studs. They are awful. You can't prove me wrong. They're nasty. Unless you're solely thumb rolling it open, the Amphibian thumb studs suck. I'm sure people make aftermarket thumb studs or swap them. Not really looking to do that with a knife I just take out of a box. I say that as I own this knife, which desperately needs new thumb studs so I can like it. Back to kind of while I'm on the thought, I know I'm bouncing around. But the reason I stopped carrying this, apart from not wanting to tip it or sharpen it, the detent here is a little stronger than the MSI's, but it doesn't take much for that tip to come out. And it kept cutting my palm when I'd reach into my pocket or anything like that. And then, of course, pens like to sit into this thumb stud groove. I wonder if I have something to demonstrate that with. I don't say Sharpie, sure. You know, it's sitting in your pocket, and then I'd have a pen or something slide into that groove, and it would open up. Just a little bit, just enough to cut me, but that is beyond annoying. You know, I don't want to be cut by my knife. The MSI gets a little bit more of a pass. So I mean, look at how much you have to open it just to really get a blade. And even then, it's not, you know, curling out at you. It's more of a sheep's foot. So never had any issue with this. Plenty of issues with this. I think that's all of them. I think that's all I got at the moment. If you're looking for a pickup, you want to do some heavy work, I recommend the MSIs. I think they're great. You can get them for pretty cheap secondhand too. New, I think you can get the polymer ones for 130, 160 bucks. Really not bad for one of these. Especially when you look at the price of what a Bugout's now, like 200 bucks. A mini Bugout's like 200 bucks. I don't know what a full size goes for. There was a folder that didn't make it onto this table I bought recently, and that was the Benchmade Crooked River. The full size. I've always wanted one of those. I think they kind of match that like aggressive but classy look that I'm going for. They're big. Bought one, and the lock stick was so bad. I overpaid. I found it in a Cabela's. So I already knew I was getting screwed the moment I said, yeah, I'll take it. I think it was like 370 bucks after tax. Welcome to Illinois. Knowing fully well that I could probably buy this knife for 150 bucks in like new condition, secondhand. And as soon as I leave there, I'm fidgeting in the car with it. And I go and really whack it out. And I had to bang it against my armrest just to close it. And I gave it another day of like, maybe it just needs to break in a little bit. Maybe it just needs a little bit of lubricant. So, I mean, I tried lubing the pivot. I tried lubing the locking surface just to see if that would do anything. And it didn't. So bring it back to Cabela's, and the guy there goes, are you sure it's having problems? And I go, yeah, try flicking it open, and he can't close the knife. So he has his manager come over, and he's like, how have you been closing it? So I take my hand and pound it against it while holding the axis lock. It closes, and I go, here, just make sure I'm not making stuff up. Try holding it. The manager gets it stuck locked open, and I don't think they bothered closing it again. So that was a nightmare. I'm like, not happy with how Benchmade's been producing stuff nowadays. Bought the girlfriend a mini Bugout. She likes it. She's not nearly as into all the small stuff as I am. But if she's happy with it, it's a Bugout. It's good enough. She wanted a small, light knife. Clearly, I am of different taste. So, yeah, Benchmade, nowadays. I think Microtech's on the up. It's kind of funny to see, because Benchmade makes shitty autos. Microtech's known for making, I'm not going to say the best autos, but the most popular autos, easily. And now it's like, all right, Microtech doesn't just want that market. They want the folder market too. And I mean, they had the original SOCOM. They had the amphibians. They had maybe another one. I had the LUDTs. But their folders were very limited for a very long time. Most of them were autos. And now they're stepping into the manual game, and I think they're doing just fine. These guys, no issue with them. I would say the amphibian blade shape is probably a little more heavy wear friendly. You don't have to worry about tipping it nearly as much. If you're just working in an office all day and want something cool and fun to play with, I would say this is a more than, feasible pickup. I think this guy ran me like $275 out the door, which for a knife of this quality, I'd say is really good, especially considering there's $100 less than that Crooked River, which failed. I failed tremendously. So that's my folders. Yeah. I know it's been a while since I've uploaded anything. I do intend on uploading a little more sooner or later. I have some projects here, some handles from this and handles from that. And I have some old knives, like I said in the intro, that I'd love to do videos on. Maybe a little more professional, not so much me just set the phone up, record, see what happens. And I think that's all I've got for today. Blah, 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 like, subscribe, nonsense. I don't really care. I'm really just posting stuff just to archive it, because I forget all the time. I forget what I owned or what I didn't own, and yeah. Have a good one.